We have to receive to lead. We've seen since the very beginning of Lead Like Jesus that he is the preeminent example of everything we need to lead. Everything. In a minute I'm going to ask you what you're thinking about getting better at. Where's your growth area of leadership? But let me just ask you now. No reason we can't do it on this slide. What is the area of growth you're looking for as a leader? Who was the most discerning leader who ever lived?
Lord Jesus Christ.
Jesus. Who was the best at knowing when to take action? Jesus. Who was the best? He was the most authentic leader who ever lived.
Jesus.
And yet he never burdened us with things we didn't need to know, right? But was authentic about what was really happening. We're going to see that. So he was the best at that. Who was the most interruptible leader of all time? Jesus. The most at learning to serve. You gave us a Sunday school softball now. The most.
Well, that's what I'm striving for.
That's what you're trying for. But just, it doesn't matter if you're trying to be a better communicator, if you're trying to be more personable, if you're trying to be more understanding of other people's needs, if you're trying to be better at knowing when to take action, being committed, keeping more determination is what I'm trying to use, fortitude to stick to stuff. Every single thing you need to be better at, Jesus is the preeminent example of doing it. Every one of them. Every single one of them. That's hopefully over the last 8.5 months, that's what we've learned the most. That I need that. I need that for this situation, but he's the preeminent example of it. And then I can tie to it. That's a good point in that book. That is a good point. And we're going to see that today. But the higher level of that is this. That's why Paul says, follow me as I follow Jesus. Imitate me as I imitate Jesus. Don't imitate everything about me, because he says I'm the chief of all sinners. So I don't want to find a person and just follow Daryl all the time. I can follow Daryl and learn a lot of great stuff. But there's some things that I say no, I can test it. Is that like Jesus? I'm going to follow Will as he follows Jesus. So he's the preeminent example. He is the example we need of every leadership thing that we're trying to get better at. Every single thing. All right, including when to let stuff go, including perfect timing. That's what really interruptible is. And somebody else mentioned something about timing. But including, this is not my time, this is my time. He knew. He was focused. He was on purpose. He was on mission. And he's telling you first, he's also not asking you to do anything of these things until you receive them. He's not saying work harder, try harder, get it, earn. There's nothing about him that's saying, hey, come on, come partly with me, and then I'll take you, I'll put in a good word for you with Dad. He's not saying that. He's not saying get part with it. He's saying receive the interruptibility of me completely. Receive the action of me completely. Receive the authenticity of me completely. Receive my yoke and my burden, for it is light and easy. Receive it. Receive the way I communicate perfectly. Now then go do it. It's by following the preeminent, it's by receiving what the preeminent example offers us that we're then able to do it. It's really easy to get that one in patience. I had to get that in patience. Who's trying to be more patient as a leader? Yeah, that's mine. The best things are happening when I don't say something. So I need to quit saying stuff. So I need to be more, so pray for that right now. But everything needs to be, receive it first. I have to realize how patient he is with me. Be so grateful for it that I can go there. Okay? So bring in your business. You already brought your business that way. You said how you're growing. What are some of your most useful attributes too? Let's be glad for what we have for a minute. You're authentic. You're living it out. You believe it so much you got a tattoo right here. I'm reading it right now from back here. I'm glad to have these glasses. To him be the glory. Put 2 or 3 exclamation marks. If you want to take Robert's contact and you don't have it, it's the one with the most exclamation marks is saying he'd be here this morning.
That's how I wake up.
That's how you wake up.
Can't help it.
That's a gift. That's a gift. You receive that though.
Absolutely.
You can do that on your own. Okay. Everything. Read this verse, Will. But what makes you different from anyone else? What do you have that you did not receive? And if you did receive it, why do you boast as though you did not? Hey, I'm really great at this. Praise the Lord. So there's everything about us, everything that matters. Think of the 3 favorite people in your life and what you did to help get them to that point. God did it. God did it. He's doing the same for you. He's shaping us. He's building us. He chose the time you were born. The most important things about you that shaped who you are, He caused. And then your faithfulness has led you further. What leadership, then this too, Jesus' main purpose was to make disciples. What leadership attribute do you need to make disciples? Or what do you need, period, to make disciples?
Loving heart.
A loving heart?
Some kind of charisma.
What?
Charisma.
Charisma. Okay. And think about yourself. What do you need next? Because you're charged to do it.
Grace.
Grace. Grace for the times I haven't done it. Freedom from doing it, and then I can then move into it. That's good. Y'all mentioned a bunch of intangibles. That's unique for this week. That's good. Another way, what's preventing you that you have so much? How long have you been in church?
How long have I been in church?
Yep. You don't mind if I use this example, right?
No. I mean,
Hearing the word. Nobody, but that doesn't hold you back. That doesn't hold you back. The woman at the well, was she where she should be? 5 husbands per person she's living with, not her husband. In total shame to even get water. Same day, making disciples. Commissioned to make disciples same day. He didn't say, now here's what you need to do. You need to memorize the first 5 books of the Torah. He didn't say that. Right? He didn't say you need to go get in this discipleship group, attend synagogue 3 straight times. He didn't say that. He said, go and tell people. And she did it immediately. The very thing she was ashamed with to even get water, she now is telling them, let me tell you about a man who told me everything I ever did. He recommissions the weakness in me. All the grace, she received all the grace in the world directly from the Lord Jesus himself, and she then went and told. So sometimes, in Presbyterian circles, we can say this easier. Some of you are not Presbyterian, praise the Lord. But say the frozen chosen. If God wants me to tell somebody about Jesus, he'll bring them to me. But no, he said all day long. I can say that because I am Presbyterian, right? So all day long is opportunity. So it's sometimes, if you've been in church like that for 52 years, or 37, or 24, you probably have more Bible knowledge than 99% of the world. And you're ready. And you certainly have more than the person you need to. And the way you really learn is experience. Is to try it. It's to have somebody who's so burdened on your heart to pray for people, to move toward them, to move toward action like you're talking about, Herson, to move toward, now I gotta go find out something specific because what this person's dealing with. This client who seems way off seems to not understand. I'm going to go understand what they understand a little more. So the way you've learned everything else, the way you learned accounting is put it to practice. It's a good school you went to. You learned a lot there. But then the way you put it to practice, you really learned it. So the way you learn everything else is putting it to practice. So think about that. Receive it to lead it, but receive the practice he gives you. So part of what we're going to talk about is the practice, the application he gives us to lead, and then the overwhelming purpose behind that he gives us to do it. I'll read this. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. This is the number one thing you've received. How does this reception make you a better leader? The reception that you believe in his name. You gave the right to become children of God. So good, Tucker. Because who are you?
Child of God.
A child of God. Is there a better image you can be?
No.
Whose eyes are most important? You, God. And he sees you perfectly. He sees you wonderfully. He sees you as his. He sees you a brother or sister of his son. He sees you perfectly. So what do I care what the other? Paul said, I don't care what anybody else thinks. He goes, Paul says, I don't even care what I think. That's the freedom of self-forgetfulness. He sees me perfectly. He's received me. He's received me. I'm His. He sent me. He sent me. I'm His. Tim Keller, if he hasn't passed already, is passing now. He's in hospice. And it's amazing that those of you who read along with us in the devotional, The Songs of Jesus, what he chose for today, what it timed out for today. But the people in Psalm 65, verses 1 to 4, they're coming to see you, Lord. They're going to come and praise like crazy because you've received them, you've chosen them, and they're going to be there forever. And what he's told his son, Michael, and his family as he is dying, he knows, he says, I can't wait to meet Jesus. As they're not wanting him to go, he's saying, I can't wait to meet him. That's the way we want to go. He's received it. A life well lived. The very same man who, as he had this cancer diagnosis, said, wait a minute, Kathy and I have been living in a performance gospel. That's his confession that brought me to tears. Hell, he lives a performance life. Oh, he's trapped in it. Oh, boy, I've got a lot to surrender. I've got a lot to surrender. And now he just can't wait to meet him. He's so excited in his pain and suffering, and they're managing all that. And he's, again, in his final hours. But to even you can pull up the songs. You don't have it, I'll send it to you because I have it in picture form too. What he wrote for these last hours of this day, the way they chose to break out the Psalms, 150 of them in under 365 days for this, is this very thing. Amazing. Amazing. He's ready to receive him. And receive that, if nothing else. And we can't go forward with our work for him until we've received him. Everything else is performance. If I don't know I'm his in this moment, then I am performing. There's certain basics I just got to do. I can't say, well, for me, this wouldn't work at my house. Like I'm just not feeling the love of Jesus right now, so I'm not going to take the kids to school. So there's certain things I do have to do. But first, I need everything else before I'm thinking about something big or new or writing something that's impactful to somebody else or going to have a deep conversation with somebody. I need to get prayed up. I need to receive everything that God is offering me, mostly and importantly, himself. That's the very key to leadership, to receive that. And you'll never have a higher status. Child of God. Prince, princess. You'll never have a higher status. That's it. That's the key thing to receive. And that brings peace, purpose, and power. The grace of the Lord Jesus, in his mercy, brings you all the peace you need. But have that peace of knowing you've received him. Have that purpose of knowing you're a child of God and you're out to go do the same, and then receive the power of the Holy Spirit to do it. We've covered that for a bunch of weeks, so I won't overcover it. So receive the gifts. Now next, receive the gifts of applying your gifts. And that's what we're about to cover. That's what allows us to look at very practical things. I hadn't figured out the full theology of this guy. But the very first chapter of his book, called The Heart of Work, I think, but certainly about how the new age of capitalism we brought in to bear. Hubert Jolly, who led Best Buy, while digital and online shopping were getting bigger and bigger. Go look at the stock graph. Have you followed it, Walker? Best Buy goes up just like this all throughout the digital age, and hit its high in 2022, close to the time he retired. So while the other big box, you remember Circuit City, only Walker and I remember that. The rest of them failed. Radio Shack gone. But yeah, they figured it out. Just got my child who dropped his phone, a refurbished phone at Best Buy. They figured out where they fit in the market very well in this whole place, and he's done an excellent job of that. But look at what he says about business. A company's purpose is far more than making money and gaining ground and increasing number of employees. Now value authenticity, Daryl, and connection over a facade of strength and infallibility. Now he's talking against an age that I grew up in corporate world, of Jack Welch and forced rankings and that sort of thing. I think that has a purpose to know how people are doing, and for a leader to know to rate his people, I think is important, by the way. But the way to help them develop is this. The way to help them be better is this. And it is amazing. So he gives us 5 principles, and we're just going to stay on the principle y'all want to stay on. We'll finish at 8 no matter what, but we'll stay as deep on anything as y'all want to stay. And this allows us to look at a worldly principle. And by the way, ironically, the first chapter is the problem, Adam's problem or something. And he's talking about Adam Smith, the economist, and then he talks about Adam and Eve. They say nobody, work is difficult for all, is what he brings out. I did not, so far in my review, see that work was before God. But so we'll see. We'll see what his theology is. But we can look at any management principle as a child of God and know the truth, and we'll back it up. Be clear about your purpose. How much would that help you? For corporate purposes to be successful, leaders themselves must first be clear about what drives them and the people around them. How would being clear about your purpose help you with the thing you mentioned? The thing you mentioned about what you're trying to be better at. If you mention one. More action-oriented, more authentic.
Clarity.
Clarity.
Not stuck in the weeds of things that don't matter.
Yeah. And even if discernment isn't my go-to gift, that's why I wrote my purpose down. That's why I know these things, right? When I invented it so beautifully with all these words, I now can go, hey, is this consistent with that? I can go back to it. I wrote that I want to be also IT, same gifts. Aren't yours also? Don't I remember that well? Okay, you're working geniuses. You made up your whole business. That's helpful. You have the tenacity to keep going. It's good. You don't like being called out. I know. But then that discernment. Now I want to be more interruptible. I got to write that down. I said, I might even put it on my goal. Now, is this a time for interruptibility or not? My default is it's not. I got to get this done, and that serves me well a lot of ways. Sometimes it's not, but I'm going to try to be as tenacious with my interruptibility as I am tenacious with getting it done, because I've already been given that, and I can knock out 6 hours worth of work in 8 hours. You're so right. So what if somebody says my purpose is or I want to be more interruptible as my sub purpose. That's not your main purpose, but it's a sub thing you want to do, and I want to be interruptible, and you tell that to all your people. What happens then?
They're going to interrupt you for that.
Yeah.
Which is great.
I'll call them 7 times a day and say, hey, I'm going to help you with your interruptibility. And then you've said, I want to help each client situation. I want them to leave with more peace. You've said something like that before. Yes? Something close about the client meeting when we got in, what the end of the client meeting is. Because they come in, doesn't matter how many nickels they had when they came in, high and low. There's the dispersion of their anxiety doesn't really have anything to do with how many nickels they had when they got there, does it? No.
Not at all.
But your ability to say, if you were saying, I want you to leave with more peace every time you meet me, then wait a minute, if they'd say back to you, I'm not at peace yet. Your client would say that back to you. Okay, let's save a few more minutes. If you were to say, Hurston, I want to be in action, what are the 3 things you want me to do to make this space happen for you? Right? You add that into it. You tell them, I want to be authentic, and I don't want to tell you anything. We're going to get to this authenticity in a minute. But I don't want to tell you anything that's not helpful for you. That's the key. Okay? Here's how Jesus said it. His purpose, for the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. So he says that early. He says things like that throughout his ministry. It's recorded here in Luke 19. He says it. So maybe that's why the woman could sneak up to him and touch his and be healed of her disease quietly. Maybe that's why people came to him, because he made so clear he was approachable. He made so clear he was authentic. And then he delivers our purpose over and over again. Go and do likewise is the same as make disciples, is the same as love your neighbor, is the same as be a witness, is the same as all of these other things he tells us. Go and be a reconciler as I'm a reconciler. All these words are the same, because if you helping somebody reconcile to Jesus, they're going to become a disciple of Jesus. If you do the things Jesus did, you're going to become for purpose. How does this help even take it to another level? One is he's doing what Walker said. He's telling everybody. Right? Then he tells us. So he models that perfect. Do the verses themselves help anybody anymore with being clear about their purpose?
It's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear. Okay, so we got to go deeper. We got to put some wings on it, because it's been clear for a long time, hasn't it? A couple thousand years. Be clear about your role, your specific role. A leader's role is to create energy and momentum, especially when circumstances are dire. It's to help others see possibilities and potential, creating energy and inspiration and hope. Now, energy is kind of a 2020 word, but all this is still true. Looking at this, how does this help you with your leadership today? How could you apply this and it help? To help others see possibilities. How does that help you? Because so your role is to help her do her role better. When she needs a helping hand, you help a hand. And when she doesn't see a possibility, hey, you've been in the middle of this all day. It's not so bad. Here's what you have. That's what you're doing for your clients. They're in the middle of stuff, and they can't see it. And you're helping them see a new possibility. Wasn't that fun debriefing the Working Genius with your 20-person team, and people just confirming, you are that person, you are that person. That created energy. And it's funny, the people that brought the most energy got the most energy back, right? But helping them see that, and then you're using data analytics to help them see their stuff's working. And let me show you this report. This one thing you've been doing is working. Now these 3 things we got to get a little better at. The data's clear. That brings energy, that brings inspiration. When you have real data, it's specifically your job to do it, then you can see. You can see what to do next. And that brings more energy and possibilities. And Dallas, the word possibilities, I just want to, it's a quote we had maybe a couple of months ago, but when love enters the equation, possibilities open up. So it's Robert, the way you're explaining that, it's with, I love her, and she's bogged down. Your clients are bogged down. My love to them, to be appropriate, we'll get to this authenticity thing in a minute, to be appropriate love for them is to see what they need, to see what they most care about. We had a client, Taylor, didn't we? The one thing we kept saying was their goal is to not get in trouble. I've never seen a client like that. Their goal is just to not, it's a non-profit organization, a very profitable one, but they just want to not get called on the carpet, literally. They called it the blue carpet. They want to make sure, that's one thing they wanted. We know first not get in trouble, then do great things. That's a strange order. I'd never really experienced that order. But it was true. But when we love them, we say, okay, we're going to do things all the more careful. But you really can't, it's hard to do digital marketing without making a few mistakes. But, because that's one of the ways you learn the most, but if we know that they care about that, we actually would bring back the performance of this campaign to make sure there's nothing risky about it that would get you called on the carpet. And then we'll show you the way forward. So it's just going to go a little slower. But that opens possibility because we're going to love them to what they need most, and then then by doing that, then we open up the door to more meaningful conversations with them. Happened all the time. I'm the way, I'm the truth, I'm the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. It's a pretty clear role. How does this help with those same things? So remember, we're talking about bringing possibilities, creating energy and inspiration and potential. Now, how does this take it to an even higher level than what Hubert's, I think, spot on. Using today's word. Now, how do these words help you align how you do that? With your,
Do what?
How you help others see possibilities, potential, energy, inspiration, and hope.
There's only one way. It's through Jesus.
There's only one way. But yeah, we're going to work on tons of ways today, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Because we can't, that's good, really good. And because we can be tempted to say, well, this is business and that's faith. Who's said that? Maybe not out loud. You may not actually go then do it, but you.
Liars if you had done.
Okay. The man with the most experience in the room in business is saying it happens. It does. And so here's what the truth is. Jesus has never asked you to do anything that's not consistent with his way. This person does need possibility. They do need inspiration, but they don't need inspiration that it's more and more and more about the nickels. They don't need that. They need inspiration If they do this, then people will respect him. They know if they follow his way. And I'm not talking about bringing out this verse every time. Because he didn't. He talked really common with them. He gave them really great examples and parables and stories that showed what really mattered. The whole time he talked, so I can I can give somebody possibilities and energy without giving them a verse. And so that's another lie. We tell ourselves, well, proselytizing is not really appropriate in this place. But at the same time, I need to help this person get better. So then I've got to get in a rhythm of the way I offer possibilities, potential, truth, in a way that I'm going to help talk to this person about their money, but that frees them from their money. If they're burdened by it. If they're not burdened by it, I'm going to do something that doesn't help them be burdened by it anymore. And again, whether it's the burden of the lack of their money or the burden of the more of their money, the people with the more of it are the most burdened. Generally. They don't want to lose it. But Jesus' life, and so here's a practical way. Jesus' life is totally about giving away everything he had. He's given it all away. He's given away his time. He's given away his life. He's given away his physical everything. He's laying it down. So it's not about. So when somebody's all in a self-protection mode, here's a way. Who's dealing with the client is in self-protection mode. Yeah. Who's watching a news channel who believes that our country's about a self-protection mode? I mean, so that lie creates fear. Doesn't mean it's not government's role to protect us. I'm not saying that. I am saying that if I get caught up in protect, I just get that much more worried about protecting. Jesus is going toward the danger. He's moving toward the danger all the time. Not recklessly, wisely. He's wisely put. So I might just put myself out there and offering a better solution. They want this, but I'm going to tell them this is what this looks like in this real estate solution. But at the same time, I'm going to give them what they really need. They'll actually cause them less stress. They want to be something that maybe is ego driven, but I'm going to show them how it can get done practically. Who's had a client like that? Again, if you're an internal business, you have internal clients, right? They need stuff, they want this way. They want to just show it big time, but we actually see in the data that the practical stuff is what really makes it happen. You don't have to go big and showy. That'd be see how that one way would make it this consistent? So it's not I'm all in churchy giving verses or I'm all in business. No, the way to do business is consistent with the way. Always. It's based on the truth. It's based on truth. Otherwise, you get stirred up. Here's another one. Be clear about who you serve and whom you serve. A fundamental element of purposeful leadership is to be clear about who you serve at your position, both during good and challenging times. As a leader, you must serve the people on the front lines that drive the business. Serve your colleagues. Serve your board of directors. Serve the people around you by first understanding what they need to give their best so you can do your best to support them. Okay, what are some of the needs of the people you serve? This covers everybody. You got clients, you got internal stakeholders, you got colleagues. Some of you have a board of directors. Shout out some of the things they need in work.
Transparency.
They need transparency in the way digital media is done. Right? Nobody gives more. Easier to get transparency on that than billboards. We talk about that all day long. You can know exactly how many people clicked on it. Okay, good. That's practical. Is it deeper? Were you thinking even deeper level transparency there? Yeah. You said never run this thing past 10 p.m. We don't get good leads at 10 p.m. And that thing ran all night. We got to tell you. By the way, you got more impressions, but it happened, and we need to tell you. Nobody wants to do about it.
Performance is great.
Huh? So
Great, but
you decide. It actually had a lower cost per sale. So we learned something, but what do you want to know? Well, we have to tell you. We have to tell you about our mistake, even though it performed better than the other. I remember when we had a landing page, we accidentally let an extra link at the bottom of the page. And so now we had 4 ways to respond on the page instead of 3, and it increased performance. It was a mistake, but it performed better. So, what else? Who else does somebody have a client that needs something? Shout out what they need.
Reality.
They need reality.
They need reality. They need to understand that what's possible and what's not.
14 million nickels at 79 years old is enough to make it.
You make $25,000 your whole life, it's 150 years retired. It just doesn't.
That's not reality. And don't you have a reality problem at both ends of the spectrum too? Tons of nickels and low nickels?
Yeah.
What a blessing. So first of all, you're interruptible on Saturdays. Second of all, you're being transparent. You're giving him reality. He needs that. He needs that more than you need the 18 nickels you'd get off the next transaction.
Yeah.
Or 2 years of them.
Yeah.
He needs that. He needs that. There's a very good chance he calls you back in 2 years.
That's happened before.
It's happened before. Who's told somebody the absolute truth they didn't like and they came back? Especially with colleagues. Probably happens more with colleagues than clients. Clients probably have a harder time with that. Because you spend more time with them. They know your authenticity. They know your transparency better. Okay? All these are worth reading twice. So the Spirit of the Lord is on me, because He's anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. This is your client. This is who you serve. He's oppressed by those nickels, or the image of having 3 homes, or the joy of, the use of the 3 homes. It's not joy if he can't see reality though. And you're helping him see that. You got to get to the end of yourself. This is just AA thing. I'm trying to figure out how many A's were in AA. First you have to know you need help. He doesn't know. So you're somebody along the way helping him. Now we don't, shock evangelism does work for some people. But really, shock reality works better when it's relevant to the thing you're supposed to provide them, that you've been charged to provide them. That's your area of expertise. It's going to take this much to get this done. It's going to take this much time. It's going to take us meeting at least once a month too, so I can better understand your needs to deliver what you want. It can't be totally off. So how would this help be that much more transparent? The things we said were transparent, reality, and we had one more. Those are good enough though. How does this help with transparent reality with your clients, which you need to give in the presenting need that they're offering you to do? How does this help? Who knows somebody who's a slave to something? A slave to their work, a slave to their image, a slave to their nickels. They're a slave to these things. And this is one reason that helping the material poor is so beneficial to your heart and soul. Because you can see people without resources. Some you'll see. Your fast experience as you get to know people that are materially poor, whether they have more hope than some people I know that have less. Nickels. They have more hope. And Brian Fickard, maybe the best book on helping the poor, says that true poverty is lack of hope. I've met some people. I've met somebody in Africa without legs, lived in a mud hut, and had way more hope than many of the people on our trip that we came to talk to. He's oppressed. He's oppressed. And if he has faith, then his oppression is that he's separating his life from the truth he knows. And the sooner he put those two things together, more joy. You have not released something that was not consistent with the way, the truth, and the life, and then gone, that was a mistake. You hadn't done it. I've been offering free lunches for something like that all year long. Come tell me the story where you've been faithful and you've moved toward the way he does things, and you're like, that didn't work. Certain parts of your life may get more difficult. It's not an easier road. It's giving away more and more. But your mind and your heart and your ability to rest at night will get better. We'll get more at peace. The joy will come. All right, being driven by values. Being driven by values is doing right, not just knowing and saying what's right. A leader's role is to live by these values explicitly, promote them, and make sure they're part of the fabric of the business. What's the value you care about? in your work? Some of you have listed values for your business. Integrity. What else?
Long-term partnerships.
Long-term partnerships.
Not transactional.
Not transactional.
Customer service.
Customer service. I'm gonna help you every time. It's a supreme value. Faith, hope, and love. Greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. This is supreme. It will cost you something. Long term will cost you something. Looking at transaction and Squawk Box all day will drive you crazy. Looking at, I got to manage this thing to the nickel, to the time will drive you crazy. To think long, oh, but the market goes up and down. Who cares? I'm going to look at it once a week. Well, that'd be crazy. I could lose 22% tomorrow morning. The freedom in it. There's somewhere in between for you. If you're looking at it every minute, then move to looking at it every 4 hours. If you're looking at it and if you're charged to do it for your client, that's different. You say, we're going to stay on top of this, but somebody's staying on top of it. Somebody's going to run around with their, telling everybody right away. So what can I do but love, the greatest value is definitely interruptible. It's definitely, moves to act. This is action. It's going to cost, if I'm more action, it's going to cost me something. Because sometimes, as a human, I'm going to make some mistakes too, if I act too quick. But I'm going to press, like somebody told me in my golf game, hey buddy, you just keep hitting one more club till you finally get it past the hole. Okay, so just test it. Just test it for a while. But just test action. Just test interruptibility. Just test the authenticity but not sharing too much. Just test it till you get it right. Then you'll know. But it will cost you something. You're laying down your life. You're putting in customer service. You have to listen to a bunch of stuff, don't you? This person, they're wrong, but I just have to listen for a minute. I just have to listen for a while. And then when I get to it, I see you say you want this, but what if we did this? Could it be better? And you lay that down and be patient with them. Patience is part of customer service. But that's okay. Here it is. Being authentic. Here's your definition. Now, being vulnerable and authentic does not mean offloading everything to your colleagues. For leaders, it means sharing emotions and struggles when appropriate and helpful to others. So what's that saying about your question? Yeah, I've been there. I've done it. Let me tell you about my day last night. Let me tell you about my hard night last night. Got in a big fight with somebody. I can't even say it here. I'm going to bring it back. So how does that help?
It does.
How does that help? That's just making me feel good. So authentic.
Offloading or delegating?
Well, in this case, it's being real.
Okay.
So kind of being real with where I am. But it's not TMI. It's not too much information. It's not, and I've got to ask before I say it, can this be helpful for them? What's an example of being authentic that would be helpful? I messed up. I what?
Mistake in the past,
Yep.
How you learn from it.
I've been there. Hey, I made that mistake with that thing too. It's not so bad. Hey, I used to be that way. Let me tell you. I was way worse than you. Let me tell you about it. To encourage them that they could get better.
I had a call with a client.
Because your core relationship with somebody you lead is to match their needs and gifts with the needs and the purposes of the organization you do it for. And so I got to tell you where you stand. I got to be authentic that, hey, that's not quite making it. We tease about you can't work the 6 a.m. shift if you don't get here by 6 a.m. So that doesn't work. So some of it's that simple. But you think you're hurting their feelings, but really if you don't turn in the analytics on time, they don't help anybody. If you don't, we had a lawyer discussion a while back. The person did the great work when they did it, but sometimes it didn't show up on time. It wasn't any good. So we can't work here if you don't do it this way. And by the way, some of it's too hard for them. They're doing it the hard way. They're doing it the way that costs them more time and effort, and it's not good for the client. So look, here's a better way. And it actually is freedom. So all these things are, as Walker pointed out, are multi-directional. Like, I'm going to be authentic about, hey, it's not so bad. I used to do that. And here's how you can get better. But hey, you've got to improve. And that you don't want it all. Let's read this verse together, Taylor. The King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, was able to say to his Father, I don't know about this. Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done. I'm doing it the way, the truth. I've got to keep doing it your way. He knows the answer. But he's saying, I'm not looking forward to this. This is terrible. I'm about to take on the way of the world. I'm about to take on every sin that ever happened or will happen in the history of the world. Is there another way? I know there's not. But it's an authentic conversation with his Father, and it's authentic that he puts it in the words for us, both directions. So there are things you're facing you don't want to face, but with your discernment, you got to go forward and do it. With your action, you got to go forward and do it. With this interruptibility, was this one of those times I'm supposed to be interruptible? Okay, now I'm going to put my phone on 3 hours of do not disturb. That's what I've been trying to do. So how am I going to do it? I don't want to do it. I'm going to be less productive. I'm going to be more productive, whichever it is for you. But I'm going to move forward in it either way. And then ultimately, we're 1 minute after. Who needs forgiveness? Who needs it? Who's not done these things perfectly? This morning, man, I'm already there. This morning, it's early. The workday hadn't started. So God provides ultimate forgiveness, and when he does it, I'm not going to cover the verses, but I want you to know, in John 21, the way he forgives you is he restores you. The way that's what he did for the woman at the well. The way he forgave her and he restored her and commissioned her. He forgives, restores, and commissions all in the same time. It's unbelievable. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my lambs. Do you love me? Take care of my sheep. Do you love me? You know I love all things. Then feed my sheep. Follow me. He's sending them out to lead the church, literally. You and these other key leaders are going to go be the ones who help some people in Memphis in a couple of thousand years know who I am. Go do it. So in forgiveness, I move back into action. Yeah, I've got the peace. Wait a minute, he's recognized me. He just cooked me breakfast. That's what he did along the shore after the resurrection. He cooked them breakfast and let them know how much he loved them and cared for them. They'd returned to old conversations. And then he was authentic. He had to address it. He had to address the fact that Peter denied him 3 times. He restored him, asked him, did he love him 3 times? You know I did. He gave him the chance to say it over and over and over again. And then he recommissioned him over and over and over again. I'm saying 4 times. It was 3. He likes 3s. Helpful. But he did it over and over because he met with him the next morning as he got up and prayed. He met with him again and again and again. He got recommissioned again and again and again. His mercies are new every morning, and it's morning anytime we go back to him. He's offering us this peace and forgiveness, and he's sending us back out saying, go lead and do likewise. Holy Father, you're so good to us all the time, offering mercy, grace that gives us peace, that reminds us of, that gives us purpose to go and lead others in the things you've given us to do today. Yes, some of them are very practical, but they're all working toward somebody knowing you. Whether we know it or not, they're working that way anyway, because you're using all things for the good of those who you've called and that you love, or you've called according to your purposes. So, therefore, help us to know we're in it. Help us to know how meeting this practical need for someone is pointing them toward you, and help us to do it with that grace and patience and kindness and action and discernment and authenticity that you call and example for us every day. Thank you that you've given us everything we need to lead. We pray it in your name, Jesus. Amen.